Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you to the Power Hour. My name is Mel Albin. I'll be your host tonight. The Power Hour is on every week, and we interview in depth some of the great musicians and vocalists in R&B, jazz, soul, uh, anything that relates to jazz, whether it's jazz crossover, whether it's jazz gospel, jazz reggae, jazz rap, jazz hip hop. And so we try to have an eclectic group of vocalists and songwriters who appear on our show regularly. And you'll see some great stars, some terrific talent. And tonight we have one of the most talented people. Still a young, rising, wonderful talent, Jay Brown. And I'm going to bring Jay on in a minute, and I think you'll find this extremely interesting. He has a lot to say, and his music is a real gift. Not only his songwriting, but also he has a really very smooth, engaging voice. So, without any further ado, I'll bring on John, and we can start the show.
Hello
Welcome,
there.
John.
Hey
How are
Mel, how
you?
you doing, man? Staying
Good.
warm
How have
over
you
there?
been? Yeah. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Just excited about what the future brings.
Really?
Hopefully, great things.
I'm sure it's going to be really terrific things for you.
Thank
You're
you.
really on a great path. So let's. You have a lot of fans listening in. There's also new people who can become fans very quickly once they hear about you. So what I want to find out is something about the artists behind the music. But I want to start out first with your just talking briefly about your newest release, Chapter and Verse. You want to tell us a
hmm
little bit about that music?
Oh yeah, yeah. My newest release, chapter and verse. Actually, we've now put out a deluxe version for that album, and it's just a combination of just love songs. I'm from the old school, but of course you gotta get with what's working with in terms of the young folks. So I fused not only old school but that modern sound together, and by combining those, you get what you get in terms of my album chapter and verse. So it's just a collection of love songs and different tempos, slow ballads, mids, uppers, just something that everyone can enjoy.
That's terrific. I've listened to many of the tracks. They're excellent, and they're not only well orchestrated and well produced, but the lyrics are something people need to listen to. I think
Thank you.
I think they'll find it really engaging. So why don't you tell us too about some of your appearances coming up, so we can let people know at the top of the show where they can come see you. I know you have one appearance coming up in DC.
Yeah, I have an appearance coming up in DC at the City Winery. That's on January the 13th, and I have another coming up on January the 14th in Philadelphia. As
Okay.
well, in addition to those two, I have um, two other shows coming up in Atlanta at the City Winery, along with my good friend Chrisette Michelle.
Oh, terrific. That would be a great show. When are those? Do you know when those what dates are for those two?
Oh yeah, my
Offhand?
apologies. Yeah, the dates are the first and the second of January, and that is in Atlanta, Georgia.
Terrific. Well,
Show starts at 9 o'clock.
I'm sure all your fans will be out looking for you. And what we're going to do too, we're going to provide links on Source Radio Network for people if they want to get get tickets for your shows. They can click right through and go right to the City Winery and get tickets to all your appearances. So we'll be posting that up on the radio station also.
Thank
So
you.
my pleasure. So let's move on a little bit. Now we talked about what you're doing currently and your new release. Let's talk about how you started to get into music. I know you started singing at a very young age. Your mom encouraged you. You sang in the church. Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I was going to ask you, why did you start singing? Boys can do all kinds of things, play baseball, football. You started singing. How come?
Well, I actually did play, and not to interject, but actually did play baseball. I boxed. I actually grew up boxing. I boxed for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
So I was definitely involved in sports. I mean, like religiously. But to answer your question, my father, he was a pastor. Past tense, he passed on now. But he was a pastor, and so in the black churches growing up, there's a lot of singing going on, tons of it. So I would hear it all the time. not only in church but at home. My mother, she at one point in her life, she was managed by Smokey Robinson, and
Oh,
both her and my aunts. So I would have a combination of gospel and that old school R&B, the James Browns, the Supremes, the Diana, all that good stuff, that we all grew up listening to. I grew up
yeah.
listening to like all the time. So I think that's where it started from, that overall passion, and then from there it kind of progressed into me, incorporating what I would hear inside the household, in church or at school. But I think as a youngster, my primary objective, and I hate to say this, but uh, when it came to singing, I didn't really know how good I was until I started to sing to the young ladies on the playground in elementary school. So, based on that reaction, it just kind of like from there, I said, you know what? Oh, if this is how you can get girls, then I might as well keep doing it. So that was my primary focus initially.
Yeah, something else that I found out about you when you were still very young. You ended up singing the national anthem for the Lions games and Pistons games. How did that happen?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So funny story. So my uncle, he's like what's his position in Michigan? He was the CFO of Detroit, and so he was heavily connected. And so a lot of people knew that I could sing, and in fact, a few other people who worked for like the Detroit Lions, the Pistons, and various other organizations, they attended my father's church, so they would hear me sing all the time. And so one Sunday, there was a lady who walked up to my mother and I after church, and she says, "You know what? I've never been moved like that. I know it was a gospel song, but I mean, would you happen to sing like, do you sing R&B or secular music?" I said, "Well, I sing all sorts of music as long as it's nothing that's degrading. I sing it." And she says, "Well, I tell you what, she said, I want you to come down and audition to sing the national anthem." She never told me for which team or anything like that, and I was like, "Well, that's kind of random," but my mom's like, "Oh, well, we'll see. Well, he's never done anything like that, and I've never performed for anyone like in terms of like a large audience like that in my life." So, of course, I was nervous considering my age and my experience, but I went down there, auditioned, and then from there, just kind of started like this chain reaction where I started singing for like just about everything, and people were pleased enough to invite me back.
How'd you feel the first time you sang in front of such a big, stadium like that?
Oh, I think the first one was the Tigers game. I was kind of in disbelief. I think that's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was just it was definitely one of those. Just it was definitely overwhelming, but it was also a good thing, especially seeing the crowd's reaction.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a great way to start off your career, singing in front of 25,000 people. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a massive crowd
That, that
for
doesn't happen
sure.
very much. There are other things about you that, often don't come out, when people listen to anybody's music and become fans, they don't know much about the person. You meditate. Why don't you tell us a little bit about meditation and the role it plays in your creativity or in your music?
Yeah, that started when I lived in China. When I lived in China, I was over in China for approximately 2 years. And I would always just try to find ways to kind of like, take care of myself mentally, you know. And so after researching and, and getting a better understanding as to how it could help you, I just took advantage of it. And I would just do it just about, I would say, before any performance, before I get up in, in terms of doing my daily routines, I would always meditate prior to that because energetically it just makes sense. It helps me focus, it keeps me grounded, and it also helps me do a lot of reflective thinking. That's what I like to refer to it as. So through meditation, I think it's in fact I know that it's played a major impact on my life positively. So yeah, I strongly recommend that people try it because it's helped me quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure it clears the decks and allows you to kind of think more about what you want to write and what you want to say to people. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for sure, absolutely.
Well, look,
Yep.
I mean, there's so many interesting parts of your life. When you went to high school, you started your own band, right?
Yeah.
And
Started my own band. Yep.
yep, and you got an audition with Wycliffe Jean of the Fugees, and then you ended up signing with Clef Records. How did all that happen so quickly?
Oh yeah. So there was a gentleman in Detroit. His name is Kali. Really good guy. He was maybe 27 at the time. He's now like 52, I believe. But just kind of giving you like I'm giving you his age just so you can see just how young he was to be like he was just so young to be that connected. I don't know how he developed these connections,
Hmm.
but he was so young, like and just making things happen, and so he just brought it to a childhood friend and I. He brought it to our attention and said, "Hey, there's an opportunity. Clef's looking for a group. How about you guys audition?" I'm looking like, well, we don't have a group. Like it's only myself and my buddy. Excuse me. And so, a long story short, got together a few guys, one guy from high school, another guy who I guess he knew someone in the group. We
Yeah.
came together, literally practiced for maybe like 5 days, drove all the way to New York to Platinum Sound Studios, auditioned for
Oh,
Clef.
I know that studio.
Yeah, yeah, really good studio. Auditioned
Yeah.
for Clef, and I think what kind of like sealed the deal was when, like, we did like the performance thing, we were dancing and all that good stuff. But then when I got on the piano, that like really like sealed the deal. He was just like, oh my goodness, like I just love everything about their vibe. They're giving me that old school Boys to Men meets, like he was just he was beyond excited. So at that point, he said, "You know what? How do you guys feel about moving out to the East Coast?" I'm like, "Well, I'm still in high school. I don't think that's gonna happen." But after I mean, I begged my parents because I knew it was something I wanted, considering who I was signing to, and considering that the passion I've developed over the years. My parents allowed me to do it. I transferred high schools out to New Jersey.
Wow.
Clef had a Clef had a house out there. We all stayed in. He hired a nanny, and from there we just got to work. Yeah,
Wow. One of the things we'll hit on in a little while is some of the people you've been on stage with. I had Mesa on about a week ago, and Mesa was telling me a similar story that Stevie Wonder wanted her to be one of the background singers, and she was at Morgan State. And she asked him, I want to finish. Is it okay with you? And he said, yeah, when you finish, come on down. Then the day she graduated, she contacted him. He said, come on, I told you you can come. You know,
nice.
so yeah, so sometimes what you did, you jumped on it right away, and sometimes you get lucky like Mesa, because a lot of guys, a lot of singers, if you turn them down, they're not interested in talking to you again. So
No, pretty much. Yeah. So you got to just
yeah,
take full advantage of the opportunity.
yeah, you do. So okay, tell me about now you graduated high school, you're with a record label. How'd you end up going to Grambling? I know you got a full scholarship, but how'd you end up going to college when you had this record contract?
Well, that contract had ended. It ended like
Oh, okay.
maybe a year before I went off to school. But Wyclef wanted to keep me on as a solo artist, but I just didn't feel like I was prepared. I've never been solo, um, you know, outside of like me singing in church and things of that nature. Like even though that wasn't really like a career, which is more so like I had to do it considering my father was the
Right.
pastor. You but no, so he wanted to sign me as a solo artist, but I said, you know what, I just take my chances with college. My heart wasn't really in it anymore, so yeah, I went off to college, and that's how that came about. I actually applied to 7 colleges, which I had scholarships to all those schools, but I decided to go to Grambling.
Yeah, at Grambling, that's where your music really started to flourish. You really got passionate about music at that
Yeah,
point. Okay, and I know that some of the artists that you had listed that you were really interested in was people like DeVoe and John B and Mint, Condition and Brian McKnight, Usher, Jay
yeah,
Z, Jimi Hendrix, Nas, Sting. It's such an eclectic group of of talented songwriters and vocalists. where was your focus? Where were you going? What were you thinking about in terms of your own musical development with this broad range, of genres?
With that broad range of influencers, I think I just love music. It wasn't. I just love music and I love stories. Like they always say that country music they have great stories, which they do. But all the artists that you just mentioned, they all have great stories, and a few of those artists you just mentioned are rappers. So I just like great music. I'm inspired by great music, great ideas, and just about every artist you mentioned, they gave me that, which helped me in terms of my me being creative while writing music and performing on stage and things of that nature. So I took something from all of those people.
Do you
Um,
know do you know that old joke about country music? What do you get when you play a country record backwards?
no, I don't. Please inform me.
You get your house back, your dog back, your wife back, your car back.
Oh man, I believe it. I believe it for sure.
I think that's pretty much the theme in country music. It's not dissimilar from blues in that sense. It's about loss and recapturing.
Yeah,
You
man.
know,
They know how to tell some pretty incredible stories.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
love. In fact, I'm gonna work on a country album, by the way.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you mentioned one of your influences with Lil Nas when he crossed over into country. You know,
Oh no,
and
so no, not Little Nas. No, no, no. This is Nas.
oh,
Nas,
Nas,
the
my
Nas from
mistake.
Queens. Yeah, from
I
Queens.
got you. I know who that is. My mistake. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Nostradamus.
Yep,
The
I know.
guy
I
with
know who you're
with
talking.
the famous Ether song when he completely bodied Jay-Z on that rap battle.
Yep,
That's who, not Little Nas, the
I
big
know you're
Nas.
talking. Big Nas.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had the wrong size.
That's all right. Yeah, pretty much, but it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, what let's talk about some other kinds of some of your performances that you started to do. You started to be a supporting act for Trey Songz and Ruben Studdard, and
Oh,
Little Boozy. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because I know you even appeared on stage with Stevie Wonder.
yeah, not
So,
only Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin too. So
wow. Yeah,
it's just connections. People would find out about me and they'll say, "Hey man, you wanna open up?"
yeah.
Just give me opportunities just to kind of build a fan base, so to speak. But all those people, you know, were not only welcoming, they were just completely just genuine people. Like people who like legitimately cared about, the progression of my career. So they all took a liking to me and always told me, hey man, whatever I can do to help you, just reach out. And so whenever like Boozy would have a show down south, I would hit him up. He would allow me to open up. That's when I did like a completely different style of music. But yeah, I mean, it's just all those different people that you just mentioned were all great people, even to this day. I mean, of course, Aretha Franklin, she passed on,
Yeah.
but Stevie Wonder to be on stage with him, that's just like equivalent to being on stage with Michael Jackson, in my opinion.
You're right.
So
Stevie Wonder's been on my bucket list for 40 years.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah,
I
I
mean,
believe it. He's just a
he's a genius.
remarkable guy. Yeah, he's oh my gosh, yeah, he's a genius. Yeah, that's the best
Yeah,
way to sum it up.
yeah. I mean, his influence on music is just beyond belief. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
okay, tell me a little bit more now. So now you're doing performing. You finished college, and you got a contract with Universal Republic Records. How'd you get that contract, and what did you do over at Universal?
Yeah, so with that contract, my aim at that point was to go to law school. I started to
Really?
focus on my LSAT and all that good stuff, and so I was preparing to go to law school. But there was a guy who reached out to me through MySpace and claiming that he knew this person. That people talk all the time. They claim they know
Yeah.
people, but they don't know Jack. They just I guess just love to waste time. Not only mine, but theirs too, apparently. But yeah, so this guy apparently was telling the truth, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna walk by faith, not by sight, because based on what I saw on his profile, he just looked pretty sketchy. Let's just call it what it is, or as the young folks say, suspect.
Yeah.
So I
Suspect.
was
Yeah.
like, and he's from Detroit. I'm from Detroit, but you know how some urban cities can be. We love them,
Yeah.
but you kind of gotta watch your back. You never know what's
Yeah.
happening. So
Yeah.
this guy, he just kept hitting me up. He's like, man, I really like your voice, man. I love your music. He's like, hey, I know a guy in Detroit who's a lawyer who knows another guy who works in the music industry. And I'm looking like, oh, bringing the violins. I've heard these
Yeah.
stories, you know, 1,000,001 times, knowing these people couldn't do absolutely jack. But something told me, all right, I'll meet with this supposed lawyer, you know. But, you know, turns out it was true. You know, he actually knew someone. And that lawyer actually knew the other guy, which is still my manager to this day. And so, yeah, from there, we just started doing songs, my manager and I, and recording and recording and recording until we put out some records, and labels just they took a hold of it and said, hey, we don't want to let this guy go. Like, we like this young guy. Like, he has that old school feel. You know, he's really young. You know, we feel like we can help mold him into like this, whatever they were saying at that time. And yeah, so I ultimately signed with Universal Republic, and yeah, that's how that deal kind of came, I guess, my way. Yeah,
Yeah.
or
You
came
know,
about.
not that I want to drop names, but I know your manager too, Myron Ruffin. Is that who you're talking about?
Well, yeah, well, actually, I'm talking about Maurice Harley. Yeah, not yeah,
Who is it?
Maurice Harley.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And
was Maurice
but
Harley.
you're connected to Myron too, aren't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Myron's on
Yeah.
my team for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my guy. That's a really good guy.
Yeah. He's really terrific. He's the one that told me, introduced me to having you on the show. You know,
I
he asked me
know.
he asked me if I knew you, and I said no, but I know your music. I know his music. And he said, "Well,
Nice.
you want him on your show?" I said, "Yeah, definitely."
Awesome. Yeah, Myron's like definitely like a seriously important piece when it comes to my career. So yeah.
Yeah,
So shouts out to
he's
Myron. Great guy.
yeah, he's terrific. Yeah. You know, okay, let's talk about a couple other stage presences you had. You opened for both Nelly and Anthony Hamilton. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
why don't you talk about that a little bit too?
Oh yeah. In terms of Nelly, funny thing is before we got on this the Zoom or StreamYard, I actually just got off the phone with Nelly because I'm supposed to be out there in St. Louis recording with him. So crazy thing is, man, the power of just manifesting things, you know, power of manifestation is just something else, man. I just have to say that. Because back in the day, I would through MySpace, I would constantly hit Nelly up, please check out my music. You know, he had the record label Dirty ENT. And
Mhm.
so, you know, of course, aspiring artists such as myself, we all want to try to get signed. So I'm sending him music. No one ever responded. Fast forward 2019, my booking agent puts me on the road with him at that time. And he didn't even know I was performing on a ticket with him. He just knew like I'm the opener and whatever, you know. But at this time, I had a top 10 record out. This is like me getting back involved in music. 2019, top 10 record. Nelly didn't know me from a can of paint. However, he was in his dressing room while I was doing my sound check, and he comes down, and I kid you not, this is a true story. He says, "Can we curse on here?"
Yeah, you go ahead. Sure.
He says, "What the fuck, man? I heard you singing from upstairs. Is this the guy who's opening up for me?" And I'm just sitting there like, oh shit, what is he talking about? Like, you know, has he been drinking a few of the, you know,
Yeah.
cocktails? And no, I'm just messing with you. That's my boy now. But no, he, you know, I didn't know where he was going with this, you know. So he's like, no, man, you got that real old school R&B feel that I love, man. Your voice is crazy.
Yep.
He's like, well, I'm looking forward to catching your show tonight, man, because I rarely stay around or stick around or get here early for anyone to open up for me. He said, but for you, oh, I'm going to be here early to see it. And boy, was he blown away. He said, man, I can't believe it. I was on stage with no band. It was just my DJ and I. And
Oh wow.
we
Okay.
killed that show. And so after that, I was on the road with Nelly again. So it just turned into like a constant thing with him. And so we became really close. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that you mentioned and kind of passing, and I want to focus on it. You have a unique distinction. You've had four hits on Billboard, one a year for the past for 4
Five.
years. Five
Five.
now
Yeah.
five. I'm sorry, I underestimated you,
No,
but
no, it's all good.
you had one a year. That's so rare, you know, to be
Yeah,
able
it's
to
a
be that
rarity.
consistent. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I give all credit to Christ and my management. I'm still just like blown away, to have 5 top 10 records, within a year and a half's time, or close to 2 years now. It's just, yeah, definitely
Yeah.
something to be proud of. I tell you that.
Oh, it is, and of those 5 songs, are you the songwriter on all 5?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you
Well,
play?
me and a few other people, but of course, like
Yeah.
I wrote a lot on all those songs. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard you mention earlier you play the piano. Did you ever have any formal training on piano or keyboards or?
Yeah, I was classically trained when I was 7 years old, but I was already playing before that in my father's church at the age of 6. I would
Okay.
play the organ, but of course, once I got a teacher and he would show me like the basic fundamentals, how to properly position your hands and
Right.
read music. And hey, long story short, I fired that guy. I said I don't want to do this anymore. He was a disaster. He was like really mean. Yeah, he knew his stuff, but he was just like a total a-hole, man. Like I just couldn't get with him.
Yeah.
So
I took piano and I got tired of playing chords all the time.
yeah, man. I love chorus, but this guy, I mean, he was just, I don't want to say, he was just really mean, like for no reason. And I said, I mean, I'm guessing maybe it's because he's serious about his craft, but there has to be a more effective approach you could take versus yelling at your students. It was just
Definitely.
really bizarre. So I got rid of that guy and said, screw it,
Do you
you
play the
know.
piano on stage or keyboards when you
No,
perform?
I don't, but I used to back in the day, but Myron's been telling me, hey man, we gotta get you back doing that. So I'm gonna start doing it, as soon as I buy me a new keyboard. Apparently my son ruined my keyboard, so
Yeah.
I gotta get back to practicing.
When you're doing old school, it's so great. Like if you can play the Hammond organ or the B3,
Yeah,
and be able to be on stage and do that. John Batiste, he was also classically trained pianist,
yeah.
and he has that say old school vibe. There's a lot. You two have a lot in common,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, and going on stage and hitting the keys I think would be terrific for you.
Oh no, yeah, yeah. It's something I'm definitely doing like in the like not so distant future. So yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about, again, we're going to get a little bit more recent now. 2022, you changed labels and you went to the Sono recording group.
Yeah, yeah. Sono SRG/Virgin Music. So that's who
Right.
I'm with right now. So shouts out to them. It's been quite the experience. They support me. So phenomenal team over there, and it's still like an independent kind of situation,
Hmm.
but supported through a major and another independent label. So it's pretty cool, because I get to do what I want to do. I get to put my music out when I want to put it out, and it's without any type of dictatorships.
Great. Have you found significant differences between the different labels you've been with over the years?
Oh yeah, there's yeah, for sure. I don't want
And
to go
so,
in depth, but like there's a significant difference, like
yeah,
majorly.
like this, like you said, this is more of an independent type situation where you have more control over your music. Is that something you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty much. I mean, at this day and age, you want to. I think a lot of people prefer to be independent. I would prefer to be independent, because you don't have that, person trying to like micromanage you and just ruin your creativity. Like it happens every single day. So I stress to people, try to build something on your own prior to signing to anyone. That way, the ball can be in your court. At least if you're going to go into a situation, going into a situation where you have the upper hand, so to speak.
Right.
Versus going into it without nothing, and then boom, next thing you know, you're pretty much I hate to say this, but it's someone's slave. You know,
Sure.
can't put out music when you want to. They want to tap into your show money. They're taking your royalties, and it happens. It's just the unfortunate truth. It happens every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. It's a learning experience. It's not something
it
you just
is.
can't walk into music and think that you understand the industry. It's not what it looks like on the outside.
Oh man, shark
Yeah,
infested waters. I tell people all the
it sure
time.
is. It
This
sure
is
is.
the real world we're talking
Yeah.
about. So the current label I'm with, like, it's a major difference. They, great set of people over there, and yeah, I appreciate them a lot.
Okay. Well, I want to focus on something which is kind of relevant to a lot of what we've been talking about. It's
Mhm.
kind of a long quote from you, and you can pick out what you want to talk about. But let me read the quote. You said, "I want to bring back music that will ultimately make people fall back in love. I want to take fans to a musical realm where love is light and fun. I want people to say this guy has music that is not only good but timeless." Why don't you explain that a little bit more? That seems to underlie, what you are an artist. So, ha-
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to go back
yeah.
to the music that I grew up on. My parents would refer to it as the baby making music. The music that made people fall in love, the music that made men miss their wives or their girlfriends, and women miss their husbands. That begging and pleading and baby, please don't leave me type music. Just something that sticks to not only those neurons but to your soul. It has to be impactful. Otherwise, what are you really doing it for? And in terms of that timeless comment, I strive for excellence. I'm obviously not perfect, and I'm not even gonna say I'm the best artist in the world, which I'm not, but I strive for excellence. And my wish, my prayer is to have music that people can say, when it's all said and done, he put out great music, and music that made me fall in love again. Music that made me believe that there are still good men out here. Music that made me believe that there still are good women out here. Just if you're not having that type of effect on people, then again, what are you doing it for? But it
Exactly.
depends on the person, of course, right? It depends on your upbringing. There's so many different variables. But in my case, I just want to stick to what I know best, and that's just love and bringing people back to the forefront of that.
That's terrific because, given the political divisiveness, a little dose
Oh
of
yeah.
love wouldn't hurt anybody.
No, I agree, man. I agree.
Let's talk a little bit more about this theme. You're talking about love and timelessness. In a world of music that has so evolved in the past 20 years, I mean, record labels have gone, they don't have the same power they used to have. FM radio is taking a backseat to internet radio. We've gone from vinyl to 8 tracks to cassettes to
Yeah,
CDs to downloads to streaming. And nothing seems to last very long. Music has morphed from swing and blues and jazz into rock, and R&B has moved into soul and neo soul, and
yeah,
it just seems like the music it changes so quickly, and we leave so much behind that's so valuable. That's the thing I
yeah.
was really trying to get to, and so how do you see when you talk about love and timelessness in a music world that changes every day? How do you fit in, and how do you make an impact, and how do you feel about the current state of music that you've been evolving into?
I mean, the current state of music, in my opinion, like, you mean just one particular genre, like R&B, or are you focusing just on every genre in
Everything,
general?
everything is out there because like right now, it's hard to get jazz or blues. You'll find
Oh
urban
yeah,
stations all over. So the music has been pushed to the side, and the kind of music you're talking about, there is some revival. I mentioned John Batiste. You know,
yeah,
um, so there are artists out there like you who are saying, hey, this stuff is really worth keeping, and
yeah, for
you
sure.
sample it. So how, when you look at the music scene and the kind of music you're interested in, how do you make an impact, and how do you make it relevant?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess the best answer would be just do what you enjoy doing. Like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I try not to, like, compromise like who I am as an artist just because something may be working for the moment. I think because there's something out there for everyone. So I think if you just focus on what it is you love to do versus going with what's popular or what isn't popular or what goes against your moral compass or your beliefs of what's right, um, I think that if you're on that path and you're absolutely undeniably sure with not only who you are but what type of message you want to put out in terms of your artistry, then you just do you. You know, I don't even
Yeah.
like nothing else really matters in terms of what other people are doing. I think I will say this in terms of R&B, I think it's coming back. I know it's
Yes.
coming back.
Yes.
It's coming back.
Yeah.
And with the younger people, now the older folks are kind of like staying away from it, and the younger folks are saying, "Screw this! Hey, have at it." Just
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So
Absolutely.
like myself, so it's just like someone has to bring it back. Like we, we need the Luthers again. We need the Gerald Leverts. We need the
Yeah.
Jane Browns. We need the Anita Bakers. She's still around, and I love Anita
Yep.
Baker.
Yep. Yep.
But we need those types of younger artists just putting that out because again, these artists all started when they were young, and
Yeah.
it's just like we have to get back to that point, we
Yeah.
have to.
Just before the pandemic, I went to the Newport Jazz Festivals, 2019. The average age was under 35. I was shocked because young people wanted to hear jazz.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, and there was a massive amount of, and the music had evolved, and there was some jazz groups who featured a tuba. You know,
Wow. I
yeah,
think
it
Boney
was.
James played on that set. I don't
Yes,
know. Did
Boney.
he?
Yes, he did. Boney James did it. So you know, you're absolutely right. Young people are starting to move back into jazz, R&B.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I remember when Bruno Mars did Uptown Funk. Everybody thought, "Wow, this is so out there," but yet he attracted a really young audience who
Yep.
loved the way he sampled the old school music and
Yep.
you know R&B,
I keep
jazz, blues. Yeah, go ahead.
it, no, I was gonna say I keep telling people that it can happen. I mean, Bruno Mars is definitely a good example, and again, his fans are all young too and older,
Yes, yes, sir. Yep,
It's
yep.
just great music, undeniable, classic, timeless type music. He's definitely a class act. I really like Bruno.
Do you know that today the biggest form of recorded music, when you're talking about recorded music, not streaming or downloads, it's vinyl. Vinyl is number
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
and there's a reason. It's because the sound of the music is dramatically different. It's much richer. It's a different sound. It's not digitized. It's analog. So that a lot. There's a whole movement of young people to try to recapture real music.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, you're really right about that. I want to talk about younger people. Given the way in which you create your own music, and it's really based on that theme of love and timelessness, you put out a song a few years ago called "Simpin'," and it was
Oh yeah.
totally. Why don't you talk about that part of you and what that represented, and what you were after when you created that song?
So like I mentioned, like in terms of country's all about stories, right?
Yep.
So simping was just another part of my life that back in the day, where I experienced, um, heartbreak. I was chasing a woman and doing all these things for her. And I said, I'm gonna go back to that. If I'm gonna talk about something, I'm gonna talk about that experience, because I feel like it's something that needs to be said at this point because, I did everything for this young lady at the time. And we both were so young, but I thought we were in love and boy, she was using me and I just looked like a fool. I was just made out to be a fool. And it was, I
We've all
still
been
dwell
there.
on it. Yeah, yeah, I still dwell on it, unfortunately. But her parents loved me. My parents really liked her, but she would use me. So I was basically simping. That's where that came from. Because one buddy in the studio, he's like, "Man, you ever had a girl and you were just doing everything for her and not really sure if she really was down for you?" I said, "Oh yeah, it's happened to me. You know what? That might be a story to tell. Let's get the beat." And came in and the beat dropped. Doom, doom. Got me messed up. I might lose my mind. And then we just started coming up with more stuff. Simply, girl, you got me tripping, cause I don't want no one. I don't want no one else. And then they say, oh, wait a minute, but this beat's a little younger. I said, well, I'm young, but you sing
Yeah.
this style of music. I said, so it's music. Like, it's a part of who I am.
Yep.
So we dropped the beat. We had that nice 808, and then boom, people said, is this a completely different artist? Going back to your point, I said, no, that's Jay Brown. They said, what? Man, he just does it all. I said, yeah, that's what I want to be known for, a person who does it all. I don't want to be in this confined box and where I'm like so restricted, and just, can't really, express who I truly am as an artist. I just want to do music, So
Sure.
that's where that song came from. It was just an experience from a previous relationship when I was in high school. So yeah.
Well, let's. I wanted to bring that up because it just shows another side of yourself. But let's go back to what we started at on the show, talking about chapter and verse a little bit. And you have another good single on there called "Don't Rush," and it features Tank. How did you hook up with Tank?
Oh, I've been knowing Tank since my Universal Republic days. And fast forward 2021, we both on the road with Anthony Hamilton, excuse me. And he's like, "Oh, my brother," we're hugging. And I got the footage, I got the pictures and everything from that moment. He stayed in my dressing room. He didn't even go get dressed. He was in. He normally he goes to, his dressing room. He chills out with his wife and his kids, but he stayed in my dressing room for, I would say, approximately 45 minutes. If I had to guess, it might have been longer than that. We were just talking about our experiences back in the day when I first met him. He's like, "Man, I want to get you back in the studio." And then he hit me up and said, "I need you to come to my house, man. Can you get to California?" I said, "I live in California." He's like, "Oh, all right." So from there, we just went to his house, knocked out a bunch of records. In fact, I was just with him last week. So he's a really good friend, man. Like someone who truly, like legitimately believes in me in my career. So he's like down with supporting me. And this is the guy who influenced me to sing R&B.
Sure.
So that's like major, I
mean, he's a legend already,
He's oh my God. He's a phenomenal vocalist, a legend, but just a great guy. A really great guy, humble guy. So
you told me this great story how you met him with your record label.
Why
don't you tell that story? It's a great story.
Oh yeah, they just paired me together because they knew I was such a fan, and they surprised me. Didn't know that I was working with them one day, and I'm sleeping at the studio waiting on this guy to get there or whoever he was, only for me to wake up. And the funny thing is, when I wake up, someone's in the kitchen burning popcorn. I'm like, who the hell's? I'm like, what the heck? I look over, and it's Jalal. I think his name is Jalal White. Steve Urkel.
Yeah. I know you thought. Yeah.
He's in there. He's in the kitchen burning popcorn. I'm like, what? This is my first time in LA, so famous folks walk around all the time, but I'm not used to that. So I'm like, what the heck is he doing here? Then I hear some guy singing coming up the stairs, and then someone stopped him in passing. And they say, "Oh, what's up?" They didn't say his name. They just say, "Hey, what's up, bro? You got a session today?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm supposed to be here doing something with an artist named John Brown." And I still couldn't recognize the voice, but I'm like, all right, I guess it's the guy I'm working with. And he started singing. I'm looking like, man, that voice sounds familiar. I said, damn, that motherfucker can sing. Next thing you know, he walked the steps. Boom, get up there into the lounge, because you have to walk through the lounge before you get to the studio. And he's like, "Man, anybody seen John Brown? I'm waiting on this motherfucker." He was just, that's how he talked, just silly guy. And I said, "Well, I am he." And he was like, "Oh, all right, man, let's get in the studio and get it going." So we're in the studio recording. Yeah, that was how I first, the introduction. That was like, that first experience with him.
So you didn't even know who you're going to be recording with or working with?
No, I was completely blindsided in the sense, I really expected like someone else, or I guess I was thinking, because they would always pair me with producers, even though he's a producer, and they said a producer. So I was just assuming that it was just going to be just a producer, not Tank, who sings and does everything. And they just surprised me with that. So shouts out to the lady who did that, because she knew how much of a fan I was.
Yeah, "Don't Rush" is a great track, and anybody who's listening, you should just grab a hold of one of those and take a listen, because you get a really good sense of who Jay Brown really is.
Yeah, please do.
It's a terrific track. I urge everybody to to go out and try to get it. Let me ask you this. You met Tank. I know that was one of your idols for a long time. If you look around the music scene today, and if you had to pick two people from your bucket list who you'd like to perform with, who would they be and why?
For my bucket list would be Gerald Levert and Whitney Houston.
Okay, all
Oh,
right,
and Babyface. Yeah,
and Babyface too. All right, good
yeah.
good collection.
And I would
Good
say
collection.
R. Kelly if he was a good guy. If he did the right thing and
Mm.
didn't do what he did, and I lost all respect for him
It's a
after that.
tragedy.
But
A
it's
tragedy.
phenomenal talent,
Yeah,
but I can't.
yeah,
There's no way. There's
yeah,
no way I would ever look past, or
yeah,
nor would I support someone who was. I mean, I would say well calculated when it came to those encounters, and for that very reason,
yeah.
especially knowing, I can't blame it on, mental illness or whatever he tried to claim it was, but I don't want to go off on a tangent in terms of
No,
that
no,
whole
but
thing, but
no,
I would
but
put him in there
yeah,
had he
yeah,
not
sure,
done what he did, or
sure. Yes,
I would
great,
put him in there.
terrific voice, great talent, and no question about it. But
Yeah.
the other people that Whitney Houston, can't do
Oh,
much, can't do much better than that.
oh my God,
And
I love Whitney.
Gerald Levert. Yeah,
Oh, baby, come home to me.
yeah,
That's Gerald right there.
yeah,
Oh man, that brother could perform. He
yeah,
would, man. Watch some Gerald Levert videos. I'm telling you, he is. Whew, that brother was phenomenal.
yep.
You know.
Another guy, if you go back and look at Roy Ayers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
he's in that Gerald
You know
Levert
your
school.
stuff. You know
Yeah.
your stuff.
Well, at my age, I better.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, let's talk about where do you go from here, John? I mean, you already have a blossoming career. You had, five songs in the last 5 years that have been in the top 10 on Billboard. You know,
Last 2 years.
last 2 years. Okay, I thought it was one a year.
No, no. This. I've had 5 top 10 Billboard charted records within the past
2 years.
two
I
years and a half. Yeah, 2 years.
oh, really okay. See, I thought it was one a year. I thought I had read that somewhere. Or
Oh yeah,
yeah, yeah. But
that would have been
that's
cool too.
yeah, either way, five top 10 hits. So, your career's in full bloom. But, where do you see yourself being, in 5 years from now or 10 years from now? Do you see yourself moving into country music? Because you mentioned country. You know,
Yeah,
what do you see yourself doing and why?
I see myself moving in still in the path of music, but just maybe managing. I kind of want to find my own artists. Develop them and give someone something that I've always wanted when I was younger, but I was just jerked around so much, so to speak. So many people the pretenders. You know what I'm referring to.
Sure, sure.
So I just legitimately want to focus, help develop an artist, and just see them blossom. And of course, I want to win some Grammys. You
Sure.
know, I wanna. There's so much I want to do in terms of music. I'm also an actor, but I feel like once I've reached the level of, I would say, once I reach the level of where I feel like I should be, then I can say I've honestly arrived. But there's still tons of work to do, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be. But of course, with consistency, it can happen. So ultimately, I just want to say, hey, I'm praying that my career continues to blossom, and I stay on this trajectory of, success, and then ultimately just keep putting out great music, and like I stated, and I hate to be redundant, but win some Grammys and develop some artists and just go from there and just keep going.
One of the things I find interesting, the Grammy Awards, and we know how political that is over the years. And when I had Mace on the show and Mickey Howard another week, they were talking about the fact that they were Grammy nominated. But if you look at their discography, you look at what they've contributed. Mesa has done an album a year for 14 years.
Yeah,
you start turning out an LP, and that doesn't count her EPs or singles that may or may not have been on her LPs. But you turn out so much music. You have such a major influence in so many people, and and she was Grammy nominated. She never won a Grammy, and there are people that have won Grammys that have done so much less than she has.
Yeah,
So
it's politics, man. It's
it
politics.
is. It is. It's great to win a Grammy, and she plays with Incognito. She was a part of Stevie Wonder's background groups, and
Yep.
and she has the pedigree. She's done it all, and sometimes the Grammy's elusive, and not because of your talent. It's because of the way the Grammys give out their awards to people. And I'm
Right.
not saying that people aren't deserving, but there are plenty of people that should have been included. She just got she was awarded a, a a federal medal at the Kennedy Center for contributions to music over the years. So, and I'm not trying to just push Mesa or Mickey Howe. I'm just talking about what you're talking about. The pursuit of the Grammy. You can have an
Yeah, I
illustrious,
get it.
yeah, you can have
Illustrious
illustrious,
career,
yeah,
but still not win a Grammy. One
yeah.
second, I gotta. My son's a little quiet, and hey, if anyone's listening right now, if you're a parent, you should get it. So just 1 second, I'm still
Go
listening
ahead,
to you, but I
go
gotta
ahead.
check on him because you more than half an hour. You gotta,
Yeah, we're pretty
Mace,
much we're almost done
you all
anyway.
right?
So
Are you still talking to your sister? Who are you talking to? Oh yeah. See, I thought he was still on FaceTime with his sister. So he's sitting by himself. So he's
okay.
yeah.
Well, look, we're really at the end, John. I've gone through most of the things. If there's anything else you want to say to your fans or people listening in, I'll give you a minute or two if you want to. But I want to thank you for being on, and I want to have you back again when you win that Grammy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me. Oh, excuse me. And I want to say to any of the listeners out there, if you're an aspiring artist, keep going, no matter what anyone tells you. I mean, you may receive a million no's, but eventually you'll receive a yes. Just keep going. You know, in spite of everything I've been through, I never gave up. And I stayed on this path because I believed in myself. So as long as you believe in yourself, trust me, it may sound cliche, but it is certainly possible, especially with social media. And if you are an aspiring artist and you want some sort of I don't want to say help because we all can use help, but if you just want another supporter, I can be that guy. So just follow me on Instagram at J Brown Music Only. Follow me. As you can see right there, my social media is attached to the to that image, and I will follow you back. I'll download your music. Please support me by downloading mine, and let's just stay on the path of helping each other out, man. The world is in we're in trying times right now, so we need good people helping other good people. So I just say,
Absolutely.
yeah, I just want to say, just support me. I'll support you guys, and I legitimately mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm not just saying it. So follow me on Instagram for all sorts of updates. Check me out in DC on the 13th at the City Winery, in Philadelphia on the 14th at the City Winery, and also check me out on the 1st and the 2nd of January. All these shows are in January, but the 1st and 2nd of January, I'll be in Atlanta at the City Winery with Chrisette Michelle. And lastly, check out my new album, Chapter and Verse, on all platforms. Please download it, stream it, support me, share with me your music. I'll download and support you as well.
Terrific, John. I know we have your website up there, but why don't you tell people, what the name, how they get to your website? What is it?
Oh, so my website is, and you gotta forgive me because I always forget. I do so much stuff. Okay, yeah. So it's www.jbrownmusiconly.com. Yeah, check me
Okay.
out. That font is so small, so I'm like squinting trying to look.
Yeah, it is small. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have your YouTube site, Instagram,
Yep.
you know,
YouTube. Just type in Jay Brown. You'll see me, little short guy singing. That's me.
and
So
Facebook too, right? You're on
yep,
Facebook
and
also.
Facebook. Yep. Just type in Jay Brown Music Only, and I'll pop up. Yeah.
Good. If anybody's interested in booking you, who do they contact?
You can contact my Myron. Myron is Myron Ruffin. His name. You have it on there, right?
Yep, it's on there. It's Unlimited Wealth Management,
Yeah.
Myron
Unlimited
Ruffin.
Wealth. Yep. Unlimited Wealth Management. Yep.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
Well, John, it's been a pleasure. You've had a wonderful career so far. You've turned out some really spectacular music, and like I said, I want to
Thank
have
you.
you back when you win that Grammy.
Thank you. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you for allowing me to come on your platform and giving me the time to talk about myself and what I love to do, which is music, obviously. So I want to say thank you, and I wish you all the success in life.
Thank
I
you very
really do.
much. You have a great weekend.
You too, sir.
Bye bye.